Imagine this. You're sitting in a quiet room, staring at a blank wall. The air is still, the silence almost deafening. Suddenly, a thought enters your mind, a memory, perhaps, or a fleeting image. It's something you haven't thought about in years, something you thought you'd forgotten. But here it is, vivid and alive, as if it happened yesterday. And with it comes a flood of emotions: joy, regret, anger, longing. You didn't summon this memory. You didn't ask for it, and yet it's here, shaping your mood, your thoughts, your reality. Now, imagine this isn't just a memory. It's a pattern, a script, a hidden force that's been running in the background of your mind, quietly shaping every decision, every reaction, every belief. It's the reason you feel stuck in the same cycles, the reason you keep making the same mistakes, the reason you can't seem to break free. This force isn't just a part of you, it is you. It's your subconscious. But here's the paradox. Your subconscious is both your greatest ally and your most formidable enemy. It's the source of your creativity, your intuition, your deepest desires. But it's also the source of your fears, your doubts, your self-sabotage. It's the reason you can achieve greatness and the reason you hold yourself back. So what is the subconscious, really? Is it a hidden treasure trove of wisdom waiting to be unlocked? Or is it a labyrinth of traps and illusions designed to keep you small? And more importantly, how much of your reality is truly yours? And how much of it is being shaped by forces you can't even see? Think about the last time you made a decision. Was it truly yours? Or was it influenced by beliefs you didn't even know you had, by memories you thought were buried, by fears you couldn't quite name? We like to believe we're rational beings, that our choices are the result of careful thought and deliberate intention. But what if the truth is far more unsettling? What if most of our decisions aren't made by us at all, but by the subconscious patterns that have been running our lives since childhood? Consider this: every time you react with anger, every time you hesitate to take a risk, every time you doubt your worth, you're not making a choice. You're following a script written by your subconscious. And yet, we rarely see it that way. We tell ourselves we're being logical, reasonable, realistic. We convince ourselves that our thoughts and feelings are our own. But what if that's the greatest illusion of all? What if the person you think you are is just the tip of the iceberg, and the real you, the subconscious you, is hidden beneath the surface, pulling the strings? This is the great question at the heart of our existence. How much of your life is truly yours? How much of it has been shaped by your subconscious, by beliefs you didn't choose, by memories you didn't ask for, by fears you can't quite name? And what would happen if you could rewrite the script? The answer isn't simple. The subconscious isn't something you can just access with a snap of your fingers. It's a vast, complex network of thoughts, emotions, and memories shaped by years of experience, conditioning, and trauma. It's the reason you feel drawn to certain people, the reason you're repelled by others, the reason you can't seem to break free from patterns that no longer serve you. But here's the catch: the subconscious isn't fixed. It's not a prison you're trapped in forever. It's a living, breathing part of you, a part that can be understood, influenced, and even transformed. And that means the key to changing your reality lies in understanding your subconscious. This is where the journey begins. Not with answers, but with questions. Not with certainty, but with curiosity. Because the moment you start to see your subconscious for what it really is, not as a hidden enemy, but as the powerful force that shapes your reality, is the moment you begin to take back control. And that's when everything changes. The hidden problem and its psychological/philosophical roots. To understand how your subconscious shapes your reality, you must first confront a startling truth. Your conscious mind is not in charge. It's not the captain of the ship, steering you through life with deliberate intention. It's more like a passenger sitting in the back seat while your subconscious drives. And the subconscious doesn't operate on logic or reason. It operates on patterns, instincts, and emotions, patterns that were formed long before you had the ability to question them. This is the hidden problem. Your subconscious is running the show, and most of the time you don't even realize it. But why? Why does the subconscious have so much power over us? To answer this, we must delve into the psychological and philosophical roots of the subconscious, tracing its influence from the earliest days of human evolution to the modern world. Let's start with psychology. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, was one of the first to explore the concept of the subconscious. He described it as a reservoir of thoughts, memories, and desires that lie beneath the surface of conscious awareness. These hidden elements, Freud argued, influence our behavior in ways we don't fully understand. They shape our fears, our desires, our dreams, and they often conflict with our conscious intentions, creating inner turmoil and self-sabotage. Carl Jung, Freud's protege and later rival, took this idea even further. Jung believed that the subconscious is not just a personal phenomenon, but a collective one. He introduced the concept of the collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of archetypes and symbols that shape human experience across cultures and generations. These archetypes, the hero, the shadow, the wise old man, are embedded deep within our psyche, influencing our behavior, our relationships, and our sense of self. But the subconscious isn't just a psychological construct. It's also a philosophical one. Friedrich Nietzsche, the German philosopher, saw the subconscious as the source of our deepest drives and desires. He believed that much of human behavior is driven by what he called the will to power, a subconscious urge to assert ourselves, to dominate, to create. This urge, Nietzsche argued, is often hidden beneath layers of social conditioning and moral norms, but it's always there, shaping our actions in ways we don't fully understand. Arthur Schopenhauer, another influential philosopher, took a darker view. He saw the subconscious as a force of chaos and irrationality, a primal will that drives us toward suffering and destruction. According to Schopenhauer, the only way to escape this will is through self-awareness and transcendence, a radical shift in perspective that allows us to see beyond our subconscious drives. And then there's the role of trauma. Gabor Mate, a renowned physician and expert on addiction, argues that much of our behavior is shaped by unresolved trauma, painful experiences from our past that continue to influence our present. These experiences, Mate explains, are stored in the subconscious, where they shape our beliefs, our emotions, and our sense of self. And until we confront this trauma, we will remain trapped in patterns of self-sabotage and unconscious behavior. But the subconscious isn't just shaped by individual experiences. It's also shaped by societal forces. Aldous Huxley, in Brave New World, warned of a society that uses subconscious conditioning to control its citizens. Today, we see this in the constant barrage of advertising, social media, and entertainment, all of which exploit our subconscious desires and fears to manipulate our behavior. So what does all this mean? It means that the subconscious is not just a part of you. It's a force that's been shaped by millions of years of evolution, by centuries of cultural conditioning, by years of personal experience. It's a force that's both deeply personal and profoundly universal. And yet, for all its power, the subconscious remains largely invisible. We don't see how it influences our decisions, how it shapes our reality, how it keeps us trapped in patterns that no longer serve us. This is the hidden problem. The subconscious is not just shaping your reality. It is your reality. But here's the twist. The subconscious is not invincible. It thrives in the shadows, in the parts of ourselves we refuse to examine. And that means the key to breaking free lies in bringing those shadows into the light. This is where the journey begins to deepen. Because once you understand the roots of the subconscious, you can start to see its patterns. You can start to recognize the ways it shapes your choices, your relationships, your life. And that recognition is the first step toward reclaiming your power. But before we can talk about breaking free, we must first confront the consequences of living in the shadow of the subconscious. Because the cost of letting it control us is far greater than we realize. The unseen consequences. If the subconscious were merely a silent observer, a passive repository of memories and instincts, it would be easy to dismiss. But the subconscious is not passive. It's active, dynamic, and relentless. It shapes your thoughts, your emotions, your decisions, often without your conscious awareness. And the consequences of this invisible influence are profound, both for individuals and for society as a whole. Let's start with the personal. Imagine a life governed by the subconscious. Not the dramatic, life-altering kind of influence, but the quiet, insidious kind. The kind that whispers doubts in your ear when you're about to take a risk. The kind that replays old wounds when you're trying to move forward. The kind that keeps you stuck in patterns of self-sabotage, even when you know better. These patterns don't just limit your choices. They limit your potential. They keep you from becoming who you're meant to be. Studies have shown that subconscious beliefs about self-worth, for example, can significantly impact your ability to achieve your goals. If you subconsciously believe you're not good enough, you'll unconsciously sabotage opportunities for success. If you subconsciously fear failure, you'll avoid taking risks, even when those risks could lead to growth. But the consequences go even deeper. The subconscious doesn't just limit your potential, it distorts your perception of reality. Cognitive biases, such as the confirmation bias and the negativity bias, ensure that you pay more attention to information that confirms your subconscious beliefs and ignore information that challenges them. This bias, rooted in your evolutionary past, served a crucial purpose when survival depended on avoiding danger. But in the modern world, it often leads to a skewed view of reality, where risks loom larger than they actually are and possibilities seem smaller than they truly are. This distorted perception has a ripple effect. It influences not only your decisions, but also your emotions. Subconscious fears and traumas can manifest as chronic anxiety, depression, or even physical illness. These emotional states, in turn, reinforce the subconscious patterns that created them, creating a vicious cycle that's hard to break. But the consequences of the subconscious aren't limited to individuals. They extend to society as a whole. Consider the role of the subconscious in politics. Politicians and media outlets often exploit subconscious fears and desires to manipulate public opinion, stoking fears of crime, terrorism, or economic collapse to gain support for their agendas. This fear-based rhetoric doesn't just shape policies, it shapes the way we see the world. It fosters division, distrust, and polarization, creating a society where subconscious biases, rather than reason, drive decision-making. And then there's the impact of the subconscious on relationships. Subconscious beliefs about love, trust, and self-worth can prevent you from forming deep, meaningful connections with others. You might unconsciously seek out partners who reinforce your subconscious beliefs, even if those beliefs are harmful. Or you might push people away, fearing rejection or abandonment, without even realizing why. But perhaps the most insidious consequence of the subconscious is its effect on creativity and innovation. Subconscious fears of failure, judgment, or stepping outside the norm can stifle creativity, discouraging you from taking risks and exploring new ideas. And in a world that desperately needs innovation to address complex challenges, this is a cost we can ill afford. Even your physical health is not immune to the effects of the subconscious. Chronic stress, often driven by subconscious fears and traumas, has been linked to a host of health problems, including heart disease, weakened immune function, and mental health disorders. The subconscious, in other words, doesn't just shape your mind, it shapes your body. And yet, despite all these consequences, the subconscious remains largely invisible. We don't see how it influences our choices, how it limits our potential, how it shapes our world. We tell ourselves we're being logical, reasonable, realistic, but the truth is we're being controlled by a force we don't fully understand. This is the tragedy of the subconscious. It convinces us that we're protecting ourselves, when in reality we're imprisoning ourselves. It tells us to play it safe, to stay small, to avoid risk. But in doing so, it robs us of the very things that make life worth living: growth, connection, meaning. So what's the alternative? How do we break free from this invisible prison? The answer lies in understanding the subconscious not as an enemy to be defeated, but as a teacher to be understood. The subconscious, after all, is not inherently bad. It's a signal, a warning, a call to pay attention. The problem arises when we let that signal dictate our decisions, when we allow the subconscious to become the sole arbiter of our choices. To break free, we must learn to listen to the subconscious without being ruled by it. We must learn to distinguish between the patterns that protect us and the patterns that limit us. And we must learn to move forward in spite of the subconscious, to take risks, to embrace uncertainty, to step into the unknown. This is not easy. It requires courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to confront the parts of ourselves we'd rather avoid. But the rewards are immense, because when we stop letting the subconscious control us, we reclaim our power, we reclaim our lives, and that's when the real journey begins. The rebellion, how to break free. Breaking free from the grip of the subconscious is not a single act of defiance. It's a rebellion, a quiet, persistent uprising against the invisible forces that have shaped your decisions, your identity, your life. It's a journey that requires courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to confront the parts of yourself you've been too afraid to face. But it's also a journey that holds the promise of liberation, of reclaiming your power, of becoming who you're truly meant to be. So, how do you begin this rebellion? The first step is to recognize the subconscious for what it is, not a truth, but a signal. The subconscious is not a reflection of reality. It's a reflection of your perception of reality. It's your mind's way of trying to protect you, but it doesn't always get it right. Just because you feel fear doesn't mean the threat is real. And just because the threat feels real doesn't mean you have to obey it. This is where mindfulness comes in. Mindfulness, the practice of observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment, allows you to create space between yourself and your subconscious patterns. Instead of reacting automatically, you can pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this thought serving me? Is this emotion protecting me, or is it holding me back? By bringing awareness to your subconscious, you begin to strip it of its power. But awareness alone is not enough. To truly break free, you must also confront your subconscious patterns. This doesn't mean recklessly charging into danger. It means facing the fears and beliefs that have been controlling you from the shadows. It means asking yourself the hard questions. What am I really afraid of? What's the worst that could happen? And if the worst did happen, could I handle it? Often, when we shine a light on our subconscious patterns, we find that they're not as powerful as we thought. The fear of failure, for example, loses its grip when we realize that failure is not the end, it's a stepping stone. The fear of rejection becomes less daunting when we understand that rejection says more about the other person than it does about us. And the fear of the unknown becomes less paralyzing when we recognize that uncertainty is not a threat, but an opportunity for growth. This is where the work of Carl Jung becomes invaluable. Jung believed that the key to personal transformation lies in integrating our shadow, the parts of ourselves we've repressed or denied. By facing our subconscious patterns, we begin to reclaim these lost parts of ourselves, unlocking a deeper sense of wholeness and authenticity. This process, known as shadow work, is not easy. It requires honesty, vulnerability, and a willingness to sit with discomfort, but the rewards are profound. Another powerful tool in the rebellion against the subconscious is reframing. Reframing is the practice of shifting your perspective, of seeing a situation in a new light. Instead of viewing fear as an enemy, you can see it as a teacher. Instead of seeing failure as a catastrophe, you can see it as a lesson. Instead of seeing uncertainty as a threat, you can see it as a canvas for possibility. This shift in perspective is not just philosophical, it's neurological. When you reframe your subconscious patterns, you activate different neural pathways in your brain, weakening the old patterns of fear and strengthening new patterns of courage and resilience. Over time, this rewiring can transform the way you experience the subconscious, turning it from a paralyzing force into a source of empowerment. But perhaps the most radical act of rebellion is to embrace the subconscious as a necessary part of growth. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this when he wrote, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." The subconscious, in this sense, is not something to be avoided or conquered. It's something to be embraced. It's the chaos that precedes transformation, the discomfort that signals growth, the uncertainty that makes life meaningful. This doesn't mean you have to like the subconscious. It doesn't mean you have to seek it out, but it does mean you can learn to move through it, to use it as fuel rather than an obstacle. And when you do, you'll find that the subconscious no longer controls you, it empowers you. Of course, breaking free from the subconscious is not a one-time event. It's a practice, a way of being in the world. It requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to stumble and get back up again. But with each step, each act of courage, you chip away at the walls the subconscious has built around you. And slowly, inevitably, you begin to reclaim your life. But the journey doesn't end here, because once you've broken free from the subconscious, you're faced with a new question. What will you do with your freedom? The ultimate truth, the final, most powerful realization. Here is the ultimate truth about the subconscious. It will never leave you. It is woven into the fabric of your being, a primal force as old as life itself. But this truth is not a defeat. It is a revelation. Because the moment you stop trying to eliminate the subconscious, The moment you stop seeing it as an enemy is the moment you discover its true purpose. The subconscious is not here to control you. It is here to guide you. Think of the subconscious as a compass pointing you toward the edges of your comfort zone, the boundaries of your potential. It is not a wall meant to keep you trapped. It is a doorway inviting you to step into the unknown. And the unknown, though terrifying, is where life truly begins. This is the paradox of the subconscious. It is both the thing that holds you back and the thing that propels you forward. It is the shadow that follows you everywhere, but it is also the light that reveals your path. Without the subconscious, there would be no courage. Without risk, there would be no reward. Without uncertainty, there would be no discovery. So, the question is not how to eliminate the subconscious. The question is how to live with it, how to move through it, how to use it as a tool rather than a trap. This is where Viktor Frankl's insight becomes invaluable. Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, wrote in Man's Search for Meaning that even in the most harrowing circumstances, humans have the power to choose their response. The subconscious may be inevitable, but how we respond to it is not. We can let it control us, or we can use it as a catalyst for growth. We can let it shrink our world, or we can let it expand our horizons. This choice is the essence of freedom. But freedom is not a destination, it is a practice. It is the daily decision to face your subconscious, to question your assumptions, to step into the unknown. It is the willingness to sit with discomfort, to embrace uncertainty, to risk failure. And it is the understanding that the subconscious, though powerful, is not the final word. The final word belongs to you. This is the ultimate realization. The subconscious does not define you. It does not control you. It is a part of you, but it is not all of you. Beneath the subconscious, beneath the doubt, beneath the uncertainty, lies something far more powerful, your authentic self. The self that is not afraid to dream, to create, to love, to live. And when you connect with that self, when you align your choices with your deepest values and aspirations, the subconscious loses its power. It becomes not a tyrant, but a teacher. Not a prison, but a path. So what will you do with this realization? Will you let the subconscious continue to shape your life, or will you take the reins and shape it yourself? Will you stay in the safety of the known, or will you step into the vast, uncharted territory of your potential? The choice is yours. And here's the thing, you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to leap off the cliff in a single bound. You can start small. You can start today. You can start by asking yourself one simple question. What would I do if I weren't afraid? And then take one step. Just one. Because the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and every step you take in spite of the subconscious is a step toward freedom. This is the final, most powerful realization. The subconscious is not the end of the story. It is the beginning, and your story is just getting started.